Hello and welcome to Petal Projections, a community-driven show where we talk all things feminine artistry. Today we are lucky enough to be joined by Sarah Ivanco, who is a contributor in issue 9 of Petal Projections. I hope you enjoy.
So, do you want to just briefly tell everybody about yourself, what you do, and your practice?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
So my name is Sarah Ivanco. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist from Ottawa.
Nice.
So multidisciplinary, I dabble in like a lot of different things. Mainly I am a uh, performing artist as well as a visual artist.
Nice.
Um, so I am a artistic director of a local collective here called the Lighter Touch Art Collective. I'm a producer and performer with a dance theater collective called Trip the Light Theater Collective here in Ottawa. Um, and then I dabble in a bunch of silly little collage projects of my own. I'm also going to be publishing a local Ottawa zine called Zine Rack coming out in June for Pride. So that's really exciting. So those are some of the things I kind of work on and do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a bit more about the zine that you're working on?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm working on a scene that's funded by the City of Ottawa and the Ottawa Arts Council called Zine Rack, Rack as an acronym, RACK. And it is specifically a magazine or a zine that focuses on sex, sexuality, bodies, and intimacy.
Hmm.
Our first issue is all about queer bodies, so it's focused solely on the experiences of queer folks around Ottawa. Um, and it's something I've kind of been like dreaming up for like I think 2 years now.
Right. Yeah.
And I finally got some like funding to publish it.
Awesome. Yeah.
So it's very, very exciting. I'm very hyped for it to be released.
Mhm.
We have some like amazing contributors from around Ottawa, some great artists. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's always been a very like special interest topic of mine. So
Mhm.
getting to see that through, I'm jazzed.
Nice. That's amazing. When did you like first come up with the idea and like kind of like you've explained like the motivations, but what like
Mhm.
inspired it really?
Yeah, for sure. So around like 2 years ago, um, one, I got like more into collaging and my own stuff.
Mhm.
And I took a lot of inspiration from a lot of the magazines I had, which were like 60s and 70s Playboys.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
and like they're insane magazines, especially
Yeah.
for the time period they're in.
Mhm.
But from that and from like other sort of like 70s style, like adult magazine materials, such as like there was a show that came out on HBO called can't remember if it's The Manx or The Minx.
Okay.
Regardless,
Yes.
it's about one of the first adult magazines that's geared towards women instead of towards men.
Okay.
Um, and like I just found the topic like I find the topic like any sort of adult taboo topics very interesting. So with all of these kind of like inspirations behind it, I was like, it would be really cool to see more diverse bodies and like bodies that I see more on a day to day being a queer person in magazines like this. And so I had that idea. I have like issues like 3 years in the future, like that I want to be doing.
Mhm.
But I'm starting with this one. But yeah, it's just kind of like I got all this inspiration from like others like old 70s stuff, and I wanted to take more of a modern spin on things and highlight some of the more marginalized voices in the community.
Right. That's an awesome
Yeah.
initiative. That's so
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you got the like funding and the resources to do that
Yeah.
because it's really
Same.
no like yeah like that's a really exciting thing. Like congratulations.
Mhm. Thank
Um
you. I appreciate that.
of course. So do you want to talk about the piece that you had included in Petal Projections? Help each other support one another?
Absolutely. So help each other, support each other, for me is a piece that's all about like community. I think I kind of mentioned in my artistic statement, um, growing up, I didn't feel a lot of sense of community. But over the past few years, discovering more about myself and finding the people I connect with, I'm starting to build the sense of community here, with like my friends and my partners and my loved ones and et cetera, et cetera. Um, but at the end of the day, growing up, having to be like very independent and having to like rely solely on yourself, it can be hard to remember that you have community behind you, which is where the mantra of help each other, support one another comes in, um, which is something one of my partners like says to me often when I'm like, no, I can do everything on my own. I don't need any help doing anything. Because I can still fall into those traps. But especially within like the queer community and the neurodiverse community here that I've built, but also within the art community in general. Um, I never went to school for art. I actually have a degree in neuroscience and biology,
Oh
which is
wow.
like
Yeah.
totally off the wall. Um, but one of the biggest things that I've found for myself is that I don't describe myself as like a self-taught artist, but a community taught artist,
Mm.
because I am just like a product of those around me and like the feedback and like the creation that I've done with a bunch of people I admire and respect with their art. Um, so help each other, support one another is also kind of like an ode to the process that I like creating art with, which is always like collective creation and working together to create art.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thanks.
Um, I and I really like want to touch on the whole asking for help notion in like
Yeah.
some of these spaces. What's if you're comfortable sharing, what's your
Mhm.
experience with that feeling in again, like you mentioned, the different communities that you're a part of, including the art community, and
Mhm.
just kind of any place that you find yourself in. What's your relationship with that?
Yeah. I'll be honest, like it's still really scary to ask
Hmm.
for help, especially with something as I guess vulnerable as art is.
Hmm.
Art is often a reflection of ourself and our experience. So when we have to ask for feedback or what people think to make it better, if they give you criticism, that can really hurt the ego and like hurt where you're coming from with your art.
Right.
Um, but I've often found that asking for help within the art community, whether it be like on the projects you're working on or trying to come up with an idea or like anything within that realm,
Hmm.
it's always created better art at the end of the day and has like opened my mind to like perspectives that I didn't see when I first started a project.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, as scary as it is, I know it's always beneficial to ask for help and lean on your community. Um, because at the end of the day, one, you're gonna have better art out of it, but two, you're gonna make better connections, with the people around you in your community, and they will often then come and ask you for help, um, which is always like very nice. It's always like a give and take. It's always like people leaning on each other.
Right. That's
Mhm.
that's really beautiful, and I know exactly what you mean, like in the it's such a hard thing to do in
Mhm.
this exact scenario, also like in the art community scenario of
Mhm.
like, oh, I have a bit of an ego attached to this project, or like this project I feel so like a such a specific connection with that it's hard
Exactly.
to, yeah. I think that like whenever I'm in like a brainstorming session with friends, just like hearing their ideas before I've formulated anything is always really
Mhm.
helpful to me.
Mhm.
And just
100%.
like, yeah, and just like hearing what their ideas on like such a raw concept is. But
Mhm.
I have, I feel like I have more and more trouble as the project gets more and more formed. You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
get that. I totally
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
Because you have a vision for it and you're like,
Mhm.
but no, I know I want it to look like this. But then you get like other like feedback and opinions there, like, but have you thought of this?
Yeah.
Uh, which is always like it's a bit of a tough transition
Mhm.
to start including that, especially when you're that far into a process.
Yeah.
Um, but I think at like any stage of creation, whether it's like you just started or like you're on your final draft,
Mhm.
it's always good to still like get that feedback and
Absolutely. Yeah.
ask for help on things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Is there any like specific takeaways that you want people to have when viewing your work, or is it just kind of like um you seem to be like very inspired in a lot of different directions, a lot of different
Hmm.
disciplines, which is
Yeah.
a really amazing thing. Is there anything that kind of ties that together, or is there just or is it like really on the basis of this thing inspired you and
Hmm.
you're going for this project right now?
Yeah. I would say for my art specifically, whether it is something visual or like a full zine, or if it
Mhm.
is any one of like the dance theater pieces or plays I do when I'm performing, I think the thing that I want people to take away from it, and it kind of lends itself to like the piece I did for Petal Projections, is that all of these pieces, as much as my name is on them, are a product of collective creation and are a product of community. Um, and that like this the idea of like the genius soul artist who's like the person behind everything like doesn't
Mhm.
exist. Because as much as like one piece like I might have done, I'm still as a person like a collection of the feedback I've gotten from my community. So I think that's like my biggest thing when it comes to
Mhm.
my art, is that I really want that to like be at the front and center of a lot of my pieces.
Right. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Um, you talked a bit about your experience and how you're doing a lot of performance-based work.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, for sure. So this summer is
Mhm.
going to be very busy for me.
Yes.
I'm doing 5 different fringe
Oh
festivals
God.
across Canada. Yeah,
Yeah,
which is
I
a
did like
lot.
one Hamilton Fringe show last year and I was like oh my God, continue.
Yeah, so I'm doing Montreal,
Mhm.
Ottawa, Winnipeg, Victoria, and
Oh my
Vancouver
God.
Fringe,
Yeah.
um, with 3 different projects.
Oh my God. Yeah, I was gonna ask that. I
Yeah,
was
no, they're
scared.
all.
Yeah.
So Montreal and Winnipeg are a
Mhm.
show I've done before last year, which
Okay.
is nice because I already know it. It's called Nui. It's by Triptylite Theater
Mhm.
Collective. It's a dance theater piece about the experience of like night clubbing as like a sapphic individual, which it's very fun. It's very funny. It's like bright lights and dance numbers and comedy, and it's a really fun time.
Mhm.
Um, and then at the Ottawa Fringe, I'm working with the same collective, and we're doing a piece called Polygraph, which is a complete 180 from Nui, which is
Right.
fun. But it's like a very serious, like drama dance theater piece about um, violence and misogyny against women within the music and film industry.
Mhm.
It's been incredible to work on. It's a very heavy piece content wise, but it's been really rewarding working on it.
Mhm.
And then in Vancouver and Victoria, I'm working with my creative partner Eric, and we are doing a piece called "When Fern Flowers Bloom," which is like deeply rooted in his Latvian roots. It's all about the goddess of death and her lover, who's an incarnation of the summer solstice, and kind of their experience over like one last date night together before the goddess has to like put an end to her lover's life. It's like very sad,
Yeah.
very romantic. Um, but again, like speaks a lot to like his upbringing, like as a Latvian Canadian. So I'm really excited to work with him on that. But yeah, so those are some of the things I'm doing. If anyone finds themselves in any of those cities, I'll
Yes,
be there.
absolutely. Um, Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. You have a busy summer ahead of you. Oh my God. But like
Yeah.
congrats. That sounds so
Thank
rewarding.
you.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. It's
Mhm.
definitely going to be a whirlwind, and I'm very
Mhm.
excited to take a few weeks off at the end of September
Oh
when
yeah.
it's done. But um, I'm also like I love
Yeah,
performing so much, so I'm really excited for it.
that's really exciting. Yeah.
Hmm.
Awesome. I'm literally just imagining your like trying to coordinate all of those like shows and how much like energy like that's so like I'm more I know a lot of people must be saying oh my God to you, but
Yeah.
like
Oh,
for me it's just like I'm so excited for you actually like
thank you.
that sounds so rewarding. It sounds like every day is going to be like
Yeah,
something great is going to come out of it. So that's really exciting.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I'm most excited about is to just like travel to these new cities, as well as doing the one in Ottawa, getting to meet different artists who are doing different projects too. I always love that part about Fringe because you get to meet so many people you
Right.
probably
Yeah.
never would have met before. So I'm really excited for that.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much for hopping in and joining
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
Is there anything you want to shout out or share? Just
Um,
head out.
y- yeah, briefly, if you want to see what I'm doing, you can always follow me on Instagram at Sarah Ivanco, Ivanco. If you want to see more theater stuff, you can also follow Trip the Light Theater on Instagram or the Lighter Touch Art Collective. And then I'll be putting stuff out for Zine Rack in June. So if you want to see a cool online zine for free, please check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you too. It's been great.
Thank you. All right. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.